by Mohamed Dayem. He is with the Committee to Protect Journalists. Put these two deaths in the bigger picture of what's happening now in Libya.
The big picture in Libya is grim. The Committee to Protect Journalists, since the beginning of the uprising, which has slowly turned into a civil war, has documented well over 80 violations of press freedom. Obviously, these two fatalities, along with two previous ones, for a total of 4 fatalities in Libya so far, as well as 49 detentions, about a dozen physical assaults, and confiscation of equipment and jamming of broadcast signals. And it really spans the gamut, the types of violations that have taken place against journalists in Libya.
Can you talk about what Gaddafi is trying to accomplish, and do you think that the arrests and the killings of the journalists are deliberately going after journalists or part of the overall attack? So many, we don't know how many hundreds, if not thousands, of Libyans have died.
Well, when we look at the number of detentions, for example, we see a very clear pattern where journalists are detained at the front lines by militiamen. They're abused by those militiamen for a number of days, a short number of days, and then handed off to the political leadership in Tripoli, who then treat them with a modicum of respect, and then use them as bargaining chips with the international community. And that's largely the result of the fact that the Gaddafi regime has very few other bargaining chips, and so they've decided at some point along the line that they're gonna detain journalists and use them to extract political concessions from the international community, and that is simply unacceptable.
And how does this compare to the rest of the region, Mohamed?
Well, the Middle East and North Africa has been a terrible place for journalists to work, a very dangerous place for journalists to work. Of the 14 media fatalities documented by the Committee to Protect Journalists in 2011 so far, I'm sorry, of the 16, 12 have been in the Middle East and North Africa. So that really gives you a sense of how dangerous of a place this is relative to other parts of the world.
Can you talk about what journalists can do?
Well, many of these journalists are veteran journalists. Tim and Chris both have worked in a couple of dozen war zones prior to this. So these are veteran journalists who know what they're doing, and we always advocate that it's really up to the journalists and their media organizations to assess the risk themselves, and to determine how and where they can work, and when the risk becomes too high, and when they need to withdraw. We obviously can always consult with those journalists and try to share our experiences with them and what we're hearing from others working in that same situation or other similar situations. But ultimately, it's really up to the individuals and the media organizations to make that call themselves.